with Susan Schnur. She is one of the original Pride member committee members, and she also chaired the march the next year. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks.
Today we are talking about the history of Pride. So we would like to know, when you started on the Pride Committee, what was the political atmosphere at that time?
Well, we were just coming out of the Reagan years, and the AIDS crisis was still devastating our community, especially for our brothers. And there were also lesbians who had HIV as well and were dying as well. Reagan had come in 1980, did absolutely nothing. People were dying. There was so much misconceptions. There was so much hate toward our community. And all we could do then at that point is come out and fight back. Even today, one of the most effective things we do as a community is coming out. That is so effective in our as a political tactic. And you can even see it now with the Republicans, at least as far as Rob Portman. It didn't do anything for Dick Cheney, of course. But as far that it really makes a difference. You start with the family, and you come out, and then the family then groups around you and says, hey, this is my child. I don't want them to be beat up. I don't want them to be full of hate. And they've been changing churches, changing workplaces, and in fact, now we have a president of the United States who talked about Stonewall. That is huge, and I really feel that that came from our basic tactic of coming out and being proud of who we are.
Now, speaking of coming out, that's something that is a big moment in every LGBT person's life. So we would like to talk to you a little bit about how the coming out experience for you was different in the 70s than it might be for somebody who came out today.
Well, when I came out, it was pretty bad. I went to Kent State and came out in '76, and when I came out to my parents the next fall, it was a terrible, terrible reaction. And there was a lot of different things, and I wasn't the best person either. But it all came around, and it all came out okay.
Now, you said you went to Kent State. Were you active at that time in any LGBT groups on campus? And if so, what was that activism like for you?
Well, the very first event I had ever gone to, and this is before I came out, every October they would have a Halloween ball at Kent. And everyone would come in from Akron, all these, very out cross-dressers, transgender people, college students, all the lefty, Kent State, May 4th people would be dressing in drag. And it was just a most fun party in the world. And then the next spring I came out. And of course, as a lesbian, how do you meet women? I joined the softball team.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we had an out lesbian team in the intramural program, and we were called the team that dares not speak its name. And we won some games. I pitched.
Well, it seems like that's one thing that doesn't change. I think a lot of lesbians still play softball, even though I can't personally swing a bat. Speaking of times changing, you went from Kent State and then you moved to Cleveland, correct?
Yes, yes.
Now, once you moved to Cleveland, there was about a 10-year time difference in there. So during that time period, you decided to become active in starting Pride. What was the political climate like in Cleveland at that time? You said you went to Kent, which I went to Kent as well. I know that is an accepting place. So what would you say the LGBT climate was like in Cleveland at that time?
It was mixed. It was mixed. We had some really fun bars, really fun things like that. Some people were out, some people weren't. I actually shave. I didn't shave for quite a while. So there would be some hostility, and I had bottles thrown at me and things like that. And other people had always known women like me. We've always been around. I got a job, I started working in a factory, and it was kind of a known quantity. Women like me, they called us, what was it like? Man girls, or I forget exactly the term, but we've always been here. And it was a little bit of a different atmosphere because even in a working class life, They may despise you and hate you, but you have a right to earn a living. So the idea of basic fairness is there, that no one deserves to be fired, and everyone deserves a chance to earn a living. Even though they may kick you out of their home and everything else, their basic fairness of working was there.
Now, it sounds like the political climate was a major reason that Pride was started originally. And do you think that that political activism within Pride still exists today, with the Pride Festival and with the Pride Parade?
Times have changed in general in terms of activism. It's really quite at a low ebb. We don't see big demonstrations, whether it's against the war in Afghanistan, whether it's these horrible police shootings that are going on. We don't see these huge outpourings of anger. I think we're still kind of on the defensive and going backwards, and that's what makes our community so unique. I mean, the Pride Festival, may not have political demands, may not actually, align itself with all communities, but the essence of it is still political, and that's how we did get a president to come out for our rights, which is an amazing feat. Amazing. The most powerful nation in the world, the leader said we have a right to equal rights. And that's huge. Now, he kind of qualified it by doing the whole states' rights thing, but it made a huge difference, and I think we are one of the few communities that are still on the move politically. Hundreds of cities. When Colorado a few years ago decided we were nothing, we even boycotted Celestial Seasonings tea. We can get a boycott going in no time in our community. People are, there's still some might here. So even though I would love to see Pride take more of an activist role in terms of other struggles, especially in terms of jobs and unemployment and homelessness, since that is so huge for the youth in our community. Not maybe necessarily because of being gay or lesbian or being a tranny person, but because there's no jobs. And I think that can be addressed as well, but I'm still going to go to Pride and have a good time.
Now, when you started Pride, the original parade was considered a march.
Yeah.
Can you explain for people today who attend the Pride Parade what the difference is and why that difference was significant at the time?
I was very inspired that by the 1987 March on Washington, when the AIDS crisis was in full blow, there was hardly any treatment at all. And that was the first display of the quilt in Washington. And in fact, in '87, I actually was part of the Supreme Court. I should have brought it in. I have a clipping. Being the civil disobedience at the Supreme Court around the Hardwick decision, where they said police can break into someone's home and arrest them for having sex. It was mind-boggling, and that's what inspired going to Washington in '87. So when we started the Pride in '89, a lot of people didn't think anyone would come out. People thought, no, Cleveland's too closety, it's too much of a family city, there's a lot of violence. There was a lot of violence with the police, with Martha talked about, Martha Pontoni, entrapment, firings, teachers. It was pretty bad. And, but I thought people would come out. I was inspired in '87 that at a certain point you just come out and let the chips fall where they may. And that's why I pushed for, in the next year to have a march. And it was a march because we were still marching for our basic rights. We weren't just parading, waving a balloon. We were marching for a cause, and that's the cause of who we are and being us and being safe. And in fact, in '89, we had a commitment ceremony at Pride. So it's been a long struggle in terms of our relationships being validated as well.
Now, you mentioned the Supreme Court case that inspired you to march. Rumor has it there are a couple of big cases, LGBT cases, that are going to the Supreme Court now.
Right.
How do you think, with that being a federal issue, how do you think that reaches out to Cleveland? Do you see local politicians and local activists getting more excited now that the Supreme Court has decided to address LGBT issues now?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a limited issue because, number one, you have to be in a relationship. I, of course, can be a poster child for gay divorce. But if we can actually say that who we are is our relationships are just as important as anyone else, it validates all of us, whether we're single, in a couple, want to marry our dog or cat. Who cares? I mean, the whole thing is ludicrous, that whole argument. It's very important to all of us. And in fact, we were so mad by that sodomy decision in '88. I think it was about 10 years, the Texas decision, the Supreme Court reversed itself, threw out sodomy in the whole country. And I remember I was in San Francisco that year, and everyone was like, we practiced sodomy last night to celebrate gay. It was our humor in the gay community is a special type of humor as well. And it does what also brings us together as a community. But it was, our movement has been so strong, we got that thrown out, that you cannot, between consenting adults, tell them what they can do with their own bodies.
And with your journey in the LGBT community being identified as a lesbian, do you think that that has affected your journey in any specific way?
Any specific way? I don't know, I've just always been a lesbian. I also, as long as I have the camera, we had basic demands in our first Pride Parade march, first march as well. And I don't want to belittle calling it a parade now because leaders change. Since I'm not involved, the leaders can frame it up any way they so choose. I do feel the Pride needs to be opened up again to any grassroots input. That's important. But we had basic demands, and they were modeled after the march in Washington in 1987. And that was women's rights, right to control our own body, which is our right as lesbians and gays. And it includes the right to medical care. It includes the right to having full medical care for trans people, whether it's hormones, surgery, any electrolysis, anything. It's our right to control our own bodies and to have medical care, to be who we are. We came out against racism because that is one of the biggest dividers in the world today about what keeps us from organizing together. It really, really is. We came out, there were 7 things. We came out for the right to marry. We came out against the sodomy laws, the right to be who we are. We came out against police harassment and entrapment. I mean, the whole issue of entrapment is so ludicrous as well. When you see straight people screwing in their cars, and then you have a ranger pretending to be a gay man, and then the guys get arrested. That's ridiculous. That's so unfair. I think it's ridiculous. So, and then also the right that there was a whole issue of the bathhouses too at that era during HIV. Oh, let's shut the bathhouses down. No, well, how about finding research and dealing with it as an illness, not as any type of sex practice. It's an illness. And I think, and that was really huge, I think that was our very first demand, was about HIV.
You did start the Pride Committee and start the marches when the AIDS epidemic was a very large problem in this country. So how do you think that affected your journey at that time?
Oh, it was really huge. There was discussion within the lesbian community, pretty hateful discussion as well, around how do we support our brothers. Number one, we highlighted the fact that our gay brothers were not the only ones getting sick, that it's a medical situation. And then, of course, they wanted to blame AIDS on Haiti. Like, huh? Of course, let's bring in that component. Racism is always brought in for some, just whatever. And that was shown to be ludicrous, that Haiti, the virus got there through tourism, like anything else. It's an illness, it's a virus, it travels. And it really affected me thinking that the issue is not men against women. The real issue here is, are you for helping people or are you not? And it doesn't matter, I could find better allies within men, even straight men, of all things, even more than some lesbians. They were more my friends. Because it's not about, it's who you are inside. It's what is your core as to whether you are my ally. And that really has affected me, and especially in terms of just viewing straight men. I mean, I used to get really mad when a guy would like ask me out. I'm like, hello, oh, pardon me. I know that's a sex, never mind. Hello, dumbbell. But now I just say thank you. No, seriously, it's meant as a compliment. I don't have to like think he's whatever. It's no big deal because it's just a compliment. And that's what straight men need to know too. If a gay man asks them out, just say no thank you. Women have to do it all the time. So coming out in '89, it was so interesting because Doug Braun and we were on TV, and we did an In My Opinion, which used to be on Channel 5, and Doug signs. So that was very political as well, to include the disabilities community, and to have things signed. We had our whole rally signed in '90.
So you were getting press on. You were getting press on local news?
We were getting no press. So we said, let's get on TV, in my opinion. And there we were. I was talking, and this used to be on regular news, and Doug was in the little circle. You know, this is old-time technology.
What were the reactions that you got to that?
Oh, my God. Well, number one, I never knew so many people watched the news. And I walked into work that Monday, and there's hush went over the bullpen. That's what we call where we all gather. I work for RTA. I'm a driver, so we kind of gather in this area and talk, and there was this huge hush. And it was like, oh no, people watch the news. And this woman came up, Gloria, I can't remember, I was trying to think of her last name, a straight woman, and she came up when I went up to the window. You know, it's like taxi. You go up to the window and get your bus assignment and such. She threw her arm around me and said, how are you doing, girlfriend? And broke the ice. Gloria was kind of a leader at work, seniority. And it was good. It was good. It worked out all right.
It definitely helps to have both gay and straight allies when you are both coming out and when you're fighting for your rights. So what would you say to LGBT youth or new activists who are trying to educate people about the journey of being LGBT and why LGBT rights are important? What advice would you give them as they are trying to educate people about LGBT rights and trying to get people to embrace them as they come out?
Number one, like you said, coming out, even if it's bad at first, even if it's hard at first, you will never regret it. Never. Coming out is the best thing someone can do. The chips will fall where they may, but at least that's off your shoulders. I would say the best thing to do is anytime we can have unity amongst everyday people, that strengthens us to fight for our basic economic rights. I am a socialist, so that will, of course, color how I view things. But I think any time that we can, well, injury to one is an injury to all. That's a basic union slogan. And that's true within our families. That's true within our communities. And wherever you do come out, it strengthens all of us to fight bigotry, to fight misunderstandings. I know there's a better word, not misunderstandings. Well,
prejudice, misconception.
Thank you. You know, the gray hair, I always have this theory that the gray matter comes out in your gray hair, and that's why we start to lose our memories.
And finally, we're celebrating 25 years of Pride. So what do you see in the next 25 years in Cleveland or even nationally? What do you see for the LGBT movement?
We're going to win our rights. We're going to win our rights to marry. We've won our rights to serve in the military. The military now is the largest employer. It's the only people still hiring. Now, you're hiring to die, but this was a huge victory as well. As long as the largest employer could discriminate, it was bad. So this has been a huge victory as well. I think we'll keep winning victories, but I think what I see in the future, though, will be kind of like the Occupy movement started, where we all kind of get together and we can be leaders as out people. Unlike in the 60s, the 50s, we couldn't be leaders as out people. I think we will become leaders within a movement for jobs, for income, for food, for health care, with everyone else. And that's why it's important to come out. Because if you're hiding something, then you don't have pride in yourself. And how can you fight for yourself if you don't have pride in who you are?
Well, I thank Susan Schnur for sitting down with me. Your name is a tongue twister. I thank her for sitting down with me to celebrate 25 years of Cleveland Pride. My name is Marche Greer. Thank you.
I want to say one more thing.
Okay.
I just want to talk about the committee. Drew, Martha, Drew Carey paid a big price for taking different stands. But anytime you get involved in stuff, we also had a really good time. You meet the best people when you're active. So that's
I agree. I have a new friend right here. I hope so, at least.
No, thank you.
What's your LGBT pride?
My LGBT pride is basically, I'm a lesbian and I love women. I love women in all their shapes, sizes, ages, colors, that I think we're beautiful as women, just the way we are.